I recently set up my very own Bitcoin node called a MyNode running on a Raspberry Pi 4. This is one of several new products out there designed to make it plug and play easy to run a full Bitcoin node and Lightning wallet. This video will give a brief introduction to why you might want to run your own node, an overview of MyNode features, and the setup process. Let me quickly say that running your own node is not about mining. These days, you need highly specialized hardware to be competitive, and this Raspberry Pi 4 will certainly not work for mining. One of the main motivations for the invention of Bitcoin was to avoid trust. And by running your own node, you don't need to trust other nodes. For instance, if the miners all decide to change the rules of Bitcoin to pay out a higher mining reward, say paying themselves 100 Bitcoins per block instead of 6.25, this would inflate the overall Bitcoin supply. But my node wouldn't recognize a block with an inflated money supply, so if one of the miners tried to send me Bitcoin to pay for something, my node wouldn't recognize the payment and I wouldn't deliver whatever they were trying to buy. This concept is called economic majority. Even if a group of miners can produce a higher hash rate on a modified Bitcoin, I don't have to accept their rules. I can still vote by not providing goods and services for the coins they provide. By running my own node, I control the rules of the currency I'm willing to support. You may have heard, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. You can now add, not your node, not your rules. Beyond control over exactly which rules I want to support, another big advantage to running your own node is increased privacy. If I don't run my own node, every time I make a transaction, I have to get that transaction on the Bitcoin network, and it's at this point where my IP address can be associated with my transactions. Many wallets utilize a centralized server for this purpose, often controlled by the wallet provider. Some wallets do support a random selection of Bitcoin nodes to broadcast transactions to, but this is on the rare side. When I create and broadcast a transaction with my own node, other nodes don't know if I created it myself or I'm just forwarding someone else's transaction. Also, no centralized service can block my ability to send funds. Running your own node also allows you to query transactions and addresses privately. Whereas if I type in an address at, say, blockchain.info, they could log my interest in that address with my IP address. Moving past privacy and control, running my own node also gives me my own personal copy of every single Bitcoin transaction ever made. So I can run my own analysis, maybe to answer questions like, what days are the cheapest to send Bitcoin? There's a Blockchain Explorer pre-installed in my node that lets you look up transactions, blocks, and even has a Bitcoin fund page that lists interesting transactions like the 10,000 BTC pizza purchase. Also of interest is the mempool viewer, where I can see how many pending transactions there are along with their fees. This can give me a sense of how much of a fee I should pay to get a transaction confirmed in the very next block, hour, or day. I do want to caution that the mempool on your own node may not know about all the unconfirmed transactions, especially if it was offline while those transactions were originally broadcast. I recently restarted my node, and it shows a mempool of 135 megabytes versus 422 megabytes directly on mempool.space's website. Lastly, there's some software that requires a full node to run, like a Lightning Network backend service. And this is actually the main reason I got the MyNode, to learn more about the Bitcoin/Lightning Network. Very briefly, the Lightning Network is a protocol built on top of Bitcoin that enables sending real Bitcoin, but instantly and for fractions of a penny. And if you run your own node, you can earn a small amount of Bitcoin by helping to route other Lightning payments, and also avoid any reliance on a third party. BTC Pay is another program that requires a full node to run, and is a server that enables merchants to accept Bitcoin without any third parties, for instance at a point of sale screen in a brick and mortar store or an e-commerce site. If you're a developer, you can also interact at a code level with Bitcoin. The Explorer I mentioned before has a nice list of low-level commands like creating or decoding raw transactions, or using BitcoinD's fee estimator. One final thing, running your own node helps the Bitcoin network by transmitting transactions and further supporting its decentralization. Now, the major downside of running your own node is that if anything goes wrong, you have to fix it, including updating software as new bugs and threats are detected. Before I start on the tour of my node, here are a few other options you might consider. Raspi Blitz, another Pi-based node, comes with a cool mini display and touchscreen for €350. Or install the open source software for free on your own hardware. Noddle Dojo is a high-performance node geared around the Samurai wallet. My node, which is what I have here, was $429 with a solid-state drive, which I highly recommend over the disk drive. It was extremely slow before I upgraded from my disk drive to a solid-state drive. And like the Raspi Blitz, you can get the software for free and install it on your own hardware, but it doesn't come with support. Umbrel, another open source and free set of software designed to run on a Pi. They don't have any hardware to purchase, but they do provide links to all the hardware you need. I've got a similar list of hardware listed below in the description that also includes an SSD with a faster write speed. You'll also see a list of wallets on their site that work with the Umbrel node. Keep in mind that you typically use a wallet to remotely control your node rather than creating transactions directly on it. GetVoltage is a hosted solution, which means that you don't run the hardware at your house, you pay them to run the hardware. There's another product called Lightning in a Box that's a little bit more powerful than your Raspberry Pi 4 hardware. Embassy, another Pi-based software stack, $269 for the hardware and OS, or about $120 for just the operating system. It's also open source, you just have to build from source if you want to go that route. This one is interesting because they're reaching much further than just running a Bitcoin node, but also trying to give you your own server to provide the convenience of cloud-based services without trusting a third party. For instance, they include a password manager, cloud file storage, messaging services, and more soon. If you want to learn more about this concept, look up sovereign computing.